This shouldn't be true, but it is. About 100 feet under the Greenland ice sheet, there's an abandoned city. Not a bunker, a city. Tunnels, dorms, a hospital, a movie theater. Up to 200 guys lived up there inside a glacier with their own nuclear reactor humming in the background. Everybody basically forgot it existed until 2024, when a NASA plane flew over, blasted the ice with radar, and went, I think it's a city down there. One scientist literally said, quote, "We were looking for the bed of the ice and out pops Camp Century." But here's what they left off the brochure. That cozy research station? Total lie. The real plan was to stuff 600 nuclear missiles under the ice and point every one of them at Moscow. And the reason it fell apart is the same reason it's about to become everybody's problem again. Welcome to Unusual Perusal, where today we're digging up the secret nuclear city the US buried under Greenland, the unhinged plan behind it, and the dumbest assumption in Cold War history, which is, as we speak, melting. Let's take it back to 1959. The US Army Corps of Engineers rolls onto the Greenland ice sheet and just starts digging. Not a foxhole, a whole city. The method was genius in how lazy it was. They plowed 21 giant trenches into the ice, dropped curved steel roofs on top, and let the snow bury the whole thing. Underneath, nearly 2 miles of tunnels, and every beam got hauled up there on giant overland trains that looked like monster trucks had a baby with a freight train. And what they built down there was a literal slice of suburbia. Heated dorms, a chapel, a store, even a movie theater, so the guys could catch a film while living inside a glacier. The whole thing ran on the showpiece, the PM-2A, one of the first portable nuclear reactors ever built, shipped to the top of the world and snapped together like Lego under the ice. Officially, this was just Camp Century, a humble little research station figuring out how to build in the Arctic. The Army even shot a peppy promo film about its charming remote research community. Adorable. And to really sell the nothing to see here vibes, they invited 2 Boy Scouts to spend the winter. I'm not joking. There's a real photo of these grinning teenagers in the ice tunnels, standing next to boxed up parts of nuclear reactor. Because nothing says normal science camp like a couple of Boy Scouts and a nuke. Now, real science did actually happen up there. The crews drilled the first deep ice core in history, almost a mile down, pulling out a record of Earth's climate going back to 100,000 years. Remember that, because it comes back at the end, and it's the wildest part of the whole story. But science was never the point. Science was the costume. The real reason for Camp Century was a whole lot colder than the weather. The real reason had a name straight out of a James Bond movie, Project Iceworm. Buckle up, because the scale of this is genuinely wild. Camp Century was just a test run. The actual plan was to blow it into a monster. A web of tunnels stretching by some estimates 2,500 miles under the ice, up to 3 times the size of Denmark. Inside it, 600 nuclear missiles, a custom Minuteman named the Iceman, like Top Gun a couple of decades earlier though, plus room for 11,000 soldiers living full-time under the snow. Here's the brilliant part. The missiles were supposed to move, shuffled around the tunnels at random so the Soviets could never tell which patch of empty snow had a live nuke under it. A giant shell game under a glacier with warheads. So if Moscow ever pushed the button, the US could fire back in minutes from a place that officially didn't even exist. One teeny problem though. Greenland wasn't America's. It belonged to Denmark, which had a hard and fast rule. No nuclear weapons, ever. So how the US handled that? They just didn't bring it up. And this one kills me. Denmark basically found out at a party. August 1959, a reception in Copenhagen, and the American ambassador just casually leans over to the Danish foreign minister and says, "Oh, funny story. We're putting a nuclear reactor under your ice." The construction, already happening. We did not wait for a yes. It's the international version of telling your roommate you got a dog after they're already pissed on their couch. The missile part stayed buried until the files were declassified in '96. Quite possibly the most expensive lie one country ever told another. So if the plan was that huge and that secret, why isn't there a nuclear missile city under Greenland today? Here's the unusual part, and it's so obvious it's almost beautiful that a room full of geniuses forgot about it. Ice moves. A glacier isn't a frozen brick just sitting still. It flows, slowly, constantly oozing under its own weight like really, really cold honey. And as it flows, it crushes everything trapped inside it. The engineers got to watch this happen live. Their brand new tunnels started sagging, ceilings started drooping, walls squeezing shut like a fist. They ran the numbers. The tunnels and any missiles inside them will be crushed flat in about 2 years. Congratulations, fellas. You built a top secret nuclear missile base on a conveyor belt, and nobody thought to ask the conveyor belt how they felt about it. So out of 2,500 miles of dream tunnels, they finished maybe 2. Iceworm got axed in '63, they yanked the reactor out a year later, and by 1967, the Army left, walking away from a frozen ghost town, slowly getting swallowed by the same ice that beat them. Which leaves one awkward question. What do you do with a nuclear-powered city you're abandoning at the top of the world? The answer apparently was just leave most of it. They took the reactor core, but everything else stayed. Tunnels, plus a genuinely wild pile of stuff you don't want to lose in nature. Around 200,000 liters of diesel fuel, a mess of toxic chemicals, and a low-level radioactive coolant from the reactor. And the official cleanup plan? Just let us know. The whole strategy was fresh snow keeps piling up forever, pressing the mess deeper into the ice until poof, it's entombed for eternity. Not my problem, see you never. But you might be spotting a flaw. They hid their radioactive Cold War secret inside the one thing on Earth whose entire personality is melting. Because in 2016, scientists ran the climate models and the results were grim. Northwest Greenland is on track to flip from gaining ice to losing it, maybe as soon as 2090. Once it tips, everything buried down there could start leaking back out, downhill towards the ocean. The freezer's about to get unplugged. Now, remember that ice core from Act 1? Here's the payoff, and it's a chef's kiss. When those scientists drilled their core, they also pulled up 12 feet of frozen mud from under the ice. They did not care about the dirt. So it got tossed in a freezer and forgotten for 50 years, until someone accidentally rediscovered it in 2017. And when researchers finally looked, leaves, twigs, moss, all fossils of a green, ice-free Greenland. In 2023, a study in the journal Science locked down the date. That chunk of Greenland was green as recently as 400,000 years ago. The first bulletproof evidence that the whole ice sheet has totally melted before in a warm-up way milder than the one that we're cooking up now. So the fake science station built to hide a missile base accidentally dug up the best proof we have that ice hiding that base doesn't last. The cover story signed its own death certificate. So here's where we land. America built a secret nuclear city, lost it to a sheet of slow-moving ice, then tried to bury the evidence by trusting snow, to keep a secret forever. And now a warming planet is digging the whole thing back up, one accidental radar ping at a time, to show us exactly what we hid. Turns out the ice never forgets. It was just waiting for a thaw. So if you have fun going down this frozen rabbit hole with me, do me a favor. Smash that like button, subscribe for more history that sounds completely made up but absolutely isn't, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay bold, and always keep perusing the unusual. Thanks for watching.